Hello everyone. So in this video we're going to talk about water solubility and how to tell if an ionic substance is water soluble or not, how you can tell. So there are a set of rules in chemistry called the solubility trends that we use to determine if an ionic compound is soluble in water. For me, I didn't have to memorize these. However, it's up for your teacher to decide whether or not you will have to memorize them for an exam or a quiz or whatever have you. So these are the solubility trends that we used when I was in school. It's actually off of one of my professor's websites, so I just added the link right there. So if you want to look where it came from, that's where it came from. Just giving him credit for that. So you might be asking yourself, okay, so we have these trends, but how do we use them? How do we apply them? So we're going to go through a couple of example problems, and we're going to use these trends and apply them and see if these ionic substances are soluble in liquid water. And also something to note is these are trends. They're not rules, they're not strict, but this is in chemistry what we tend to see. So, there might be a rare compound out there that when you use the solubility trends, it says it's soluble, but in real life, it's actually not soluble. So they're trends, they're not hard rules. All right, so going down to our first problem, we have lead nitrate. So what you do is you look at the first rule. So you want to go first rule chronologically down to the seventh rule. Okay, so you look at the first rule. So the first rule, compounds containing a group 1 metal cation or ammonium tend to be soluble. And you ask yourself, does that apply to the compound that we are looking at? Well, we don't have a group 1 metal cation, and we don't have ammonium, so that doesn't really apply. That doesn't really help us. So we go on to number 2. Compounds containing nitrate, acetate, chlorate, or perchlorate tend to be soluble. Oh, look at that. We have nitrate, right? That applies. It's saying that it tends to be soluble. So guess what? We put soluble. Now you might be saying, but compounds with lead, that doesn't seem like to be soluble. Well, you start with number 2 and then you go down. Like number 3. Number 3 says silver, lead, and copper compounds tend to be insoluble. But since 2 came before 3, we go with number 2. We go chronologically. So we kind of ignore everything below number 2 because number 2 is more important. So you just go chronologically. So I hope that helps. So even though it does say lead tends to be insoluble, since number 2 pertained first, we're going to go with that one. All right, so moving on. So our second one is sodium sulfate. So again, we start off with number 1. We have compounds containing a group 1 metal cation or ammonium tend to be soluble. Okay, is sodium a group 1 metal cation? So let's look. All right, here's my periodic table. Group 1, we have sodium. So yeah, it is. And since that applies, then we go with that rule and we say soluble. All right, next one, ammonium chloride. Compounds containing a group 1 metal cation or ammonium tend to be soluble. All right, we have ammonium, that's soluble. All right, last but not least, potassium nitride. All right, compounds containing a group 1 metal cation or ammonium tend to be soluble. All right, let's look to see if potassium is a group 1. All right, we look, potassium is in group 1A, and so guess what? That's soluble. So as a review, you start with number 1 and you work your way down. So if number 1 pertains, use that rule. If it doesn't, go down to number 2. If that rule doesn't pertain, go down to number 3, and so on and so forth until you find a rule that pertains and go with that rule. Never skip rules, because sometimes if you skip rules and you rush through it, you might skip a rule that actually does pertain if you didn't read it correctly or didn't understand it. So make sure you go through them one by one, see if they pertain, and use them if they do, and then go on to the next one if they don't. All right, everyone, I hope that helps. Leave any questions or comments down, of course, in the comments. And yeah, like this video and ask me any questions or anything else. Thank you all.